The full story behind the rabbit burglars. The first sound was subtle, almost polite. A soft thud against the front door, like someone tapping rhythmically with long, deliberate fingers. My apartment was supposed to be empty. My eyes flicked to the clock. 2:13 in the morning. I froze. The air was still, thick with silence that wasn't silence at all. Every instinct screamed to run, but my legs betrayed me. I inched toward the peephole, heart hammering, and saw them 3 figures crouched like predators. Each wore a rabbit mask, torn at the seams, their black eyes hollow voids that seemed to pierce right through the glass. They weren't moving like humans. There was a rhythm, a deliberate precision in their stance, a choreographed menace that made my stomach coil. The first thought in my mind, this is not a joke. This is real. Then came a scraping sound from the window. I turned just in time to see one of them sliding along the wall, impossibly quiet. The dim streetlight caught its mask, revealing jagged cracks and faded paint, but their gaze was fixed on me. That coppery scent filled the room, sharp and metallic, and I realized with dread that it wasn't just fear that was coursing through my veins. It was anticipation, a warning my body knew before my mind could process it. I remembered the rumors. People online reporting break-ins by masked intruders, some describing rabbit masks, others insisting that creatures moved in impossible ways, like shadows that obeyed a different set of rules. Nobody ever had proof. Until now. I grabbed my phone to call 911. It slipped through my fingers and skittered under the couch. I froze, hoping it hadn't made enough noise to alert them. The figure at the door tilted its head, unnatural, almost animalistic, and I felt a shiver crawl up my spine. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Time lost all meaning. Every thud, every scrape, every whisper of movement made me question whether the world outside my apartment was still normal. One of them tapped the door 3 times, slow and measured. Then they retreated, as if daring me to respond. My voice trembled. What? What do you want? The masked head turned, tilting slightly to the side, and from behind the mask came a rasping whisper I could feel more than hear. You shouldn't be awake. The room temperature dropped sharply. My breath fogged in front of me. The shadows stretched across the walls, crawling toward me like living ink. The rabbit figures moved again, sliding toward the corners, their presence bleeding into every crevice of the apartment. I tried to back away, but my legs were roots in concrete. The scraping sound grew louder above me, on the ceiling. I imagined their eyes, black and empty, following my every move. Each thud synchronized with my pulse, until it felt like the apartment itself was breathing with them. I wanted to call out again, to demand they leave, but the rasping voice whispered inside my head rather than out loud. Words I couldn't quite understand, phrases that felt like commands. The shadows twisted and warped, elongating, and I realized the figures weren't just in my apartment, they were inside my perception, bending reality to their will. I stumbled toward the door, hoping to escape, but it slammed shut behind me. My hands flew to my face, pressing against the cold wood. The tapping began again, faster this time, irregular, frantic. One figure crouched near the window, staring at me through the crack. Its fingers drummed against the frame, 5 long digits that seemed to stretch unnaturally. Then the first figure approached the center of the room. Its movements were almost graceful, predatory. My eyes darted to every shadow, every corner, searching for escape routes. But there were none. It's a game, I realized. A game I didn't want to play, but couldn't stop. I backed into the kitchen, knocking over a chair. The clatter didn't scare them. They didn't flinch. They never do. The middle rabbit leaned slightly toward me, tilting its head in a grotesque mimicry of curiosity. My mind screamed, "Don't look, don't respond, don't breathe." The third figure moved silently behind me. I felt it before I saw it, a brush of air, a faint smell of soil and smoke. My back pressed against the counter. The rasping whisper came again. "You're not ready?" I tried to run to the balcony, thinking maybe fresh air would break this spell. As I opened the sliding door, a hand-long, pale, impossibly thin shot through the gap and grabbed my wrist. The metal railing scraped against my skin, drawing blood, but the hand held me fast. My vision blurred. I felt my pulse hammering in my temples. Every second stretched into eternity. I could hear their breathing, or maybe it was my own amplified by fear. They were circling me now, silent except for the faint scratching of claws against wood. Each figure moved in tandem, like a trio of predators, coordinating instinctively, perfectly. I slumped against the balcony door, hands shaking. "Please, just leave," I whispered. My words barely carried in the heavy, thick air. And then, as suddenly as they appeared, they vanished. The window was empty, the balcony silent. My apartment, once a cage, felt hollow. The night light from the street cast normal shadows, but I knew better. I had seen them move, felt them enter my space, watched them study me. I spent the rest of the night cleaning scratches, checking locks, trying to convince myself it had been a dream. But I know better. The coppery smell lingers on my skin. The thuds echo in my mind even now. Every reflection I see, every shadow that flickers unnaturally, brings me back to that night. I don't know if I will ever sleep without imagining those hollow eyes staring at me, analyzing, waiting. If you think this story chilled you, imagine what else is out there, waiting in the dark. For more real-world horrors and encounters that will creep into your mind, subscribe to Halfway Dark. You won't face the darkness alone. The creepiest midnight intruders you'll ever hear about. It started with a scratching sound sharp, deliberate, repeating in intervals like a metronome keeping time with my heartbeat. I was alone in my apartment, sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at the glowing numbers of the alarm clock. 12:31 in the morning. The sound wasn't coming from outside. No, it was inside the walls. I pressed my ear against the plaster. The scratching stopped, then resumed, louder, closer, until it felt like something or someone was dragging long fingernails just inches from my face. The air was heavy with that coppery tone, faint but unmistakable. I pulled back, convinced it was a rat, maybe a squirrel. But when the scratching moved upward, fast, zigzagging toward the ceiling, my stomach dropped. Rats don't move like that. Rats don't knock. Because that's what it turned into. 3 sharp raps against the wall, measured and deliberate, as if whoever was behind it wanted me to know they were aware of me listening. I whispered to myself, "Don't answer." But when you tell yourself not to think about something, it's all you can think about. The sound followed me. To the bathroom, to the kitchen. Every wall I touched pulsed faintly beneath my palm, as if something living lurked just beneath the surface. At 12:46, the knocking escalated to pounding. Pictures rattled on the wall. I grabbed my phone, tried to call the landlord, but the call wouldn't connect. No signal, though. I had full bars. My chest grew tight. Then I heard it. A voice. Muffled at first, like someone speaking through a layer of concrete. It whispered words I couldn't understand, too garbled to make sense. But as it grew louder, clearer, one phrase cut through. "We're already inside." The floorboards creaked. My eyes darted to the hallway, where shadows twisted unnaturally, stretching longer than the dim light should allow. Shapes formed in the darkness, tall, too tall, their limbs bent at impossible angles, their heads cocked sideways as though straining to hear me breathe. The scraping began again, not in the walls this time, but on the floor just outside my bedroom. Slow, dragging, like claws across wood. I slammed the door shut, locked it, shoved a chair beneath the handle. My breaths came short, sharp. My heart felt like it was trying to break free from my chest. Then silence. I sat frozen, every muscle tense, waiting. Seconds passed, minutes. The silence stretched on until I almost convinced myself it was over. Maybe I had imagined it. Maybe the mind plays tricks when you're too tired. But at 1:03 in the morning, the doorknob turned, slowly, gently, testing the lock. The chair beneath the handle trembled with each attempt. My skin prickled, every hair on my body standing on end. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The knob stopped turning, but then came a whisper through the wood, so close I felt the vibrations against my forehead. "Let us see you." I wanted to scream, but the sound lodged in my throat. My eyes stung with tears. I couldn't blink away. The whisper grew sharper, more insistent, overlapping two voices, 3, maybe more, all speaking at once. Some coaxing, some commanding, some just laughing quietly to themselves. The pounding returned, violent now. The chair buckled. The hinges creaked. I staggered back, grabbed the heaviest thing I could find, a lamp, and raised it above my head like a weapon. The pounding stopped. Another silence. But this one was worse, heavier, expectant. Then, nothing. I waited an hour, maybe more. My phone finally regained service at 2:14. I called the police, but when they arrived, the apartment was spotless. No scratches, no signs of forced entry. Just me, trembling, unable to explain why I couldn't stop staring at the walls. They left, and for a moment, I thought I was safe. Until I lay back in bed. Because when I pressed my head against the pillow, I could hear it again, faint scratching from inside the mattress, directly beneath where I slept. And that's the truth I've tried to live with ever since. My apartment looks normal. My walls are still. But sometimes, deep in the night, the scratching comes back. Sometimes it's a knock. Sometimes it's laughter. And every time, the whisper returns. We're already inside.